Thanks for staying with us. This is Newsline. I'm Michael Chagani. With me is Fanny Law, who is in charge of CY Leung's transition team. She also helped him with his campaign, a very successful campaign. That's why he's now the chief executive, or chief executive elect. Thank you very much again for being on this show at this time, a very busy time for you. Now, just before the break, we said that if CY Leung gets this government restructuring that he wants, which you're trying to hard to push for, he's going to have to deliver, and the people will be monitoring him, like you say. But you pointed out that he's facing a lot of opposition in restructuring the government, whereas his predecessors did not, especially in 2007. Do you feel that the Democrats or the legislative councillors are being unfair to CY Leung, or is it a changed political situation in Hong Kong now? They have to be more accountable for every cent they spend.
Well, I think people really want to see results. The pan-Democrats may be posturing, I think, in the ultimate political posturing. They know that people want change, and they want to see change quickly. And I have every faith that CY will deliver. What he is aiming for
what people promise in elections, they hardly ever deliver.
No. But CY has his sight on 2017 as well.
He wants to run as in the direct election.
And in fact, there's so much in his manifesto that I think it will take 5 to 10 years to complete or deliver all his pledges. And it's so important that the whole team should be in position on the 1st of July so that they could really mouse through the manifesto and then determine the priorities in the coming years. Because this manifesto is the framework. And for all politically appointed officers, they will have to study it very carefully. They will have to align their work and work much more closely. We want a much more connected government, and a government that is efficient, proactive, have long-term vision, and is also more connected with the government.
It's a lot of bravado on CY Leung's part to say that he's not even chief executive yet, he's chief executive elect, but to have said right after he won the election that he's going to go for it again in 2017, you know, as far as I know, no elected leader who wins his first term, or even as on the day he wins, says, I'm going to run for the second term.
That really
that's sticking his neck out a lot.
Well, that really shows his determination to make a difference. And he's confident that he can make a difference.
You don't know what's going to happen 5 years from now. He could be really hated by the people.
Well, well, I think
he could be like Richard Nixon.
Where there is a will, there is a way. Okay.
Well, let's hope nothing. Let's hope the next 5 years are good for him, smooth sailing.
Okay.
Now, the one other restructuring that you have, which caught a lot of attention and sense of political sensitivity, is you're creating a culture department. And you know, if you were in the West, a culture department is a culture department, right? Deals with the arts and museums and stuff like that. But here in Hong Kong, with our mainland China background, it is seen as something different, something more sinister. Why do you have to have it?
Well, this suggestion is a response to the cultural sector during the campaign. And in fact, the sector has been pushing for a culture department, a culture bureau, for many years. Even LegCo, I believe, has debated on this. But the present administration did not set up a culture bureau. We think it's time to do so.
It's not a propaganda department.
It's not a propaganda department.
You can say that here and now, that is purely to do with culture.
Culture and arts, and we are going to bring together heritage, culture, arts, and also the creative industries.
And not promote like national education or stuff like that?
No, that would be something for the Education Bureau to do. And I think you know, people generally welcome this idea. And given that the West Kowloon Cultural Center district is progressing very rapidly, I think it's time that we should also educate the people
it's
to
not
appreciate
progressing rapidly, because Michael Kadoorie a couple of days said if we were doing the way the government was doing with the Kai Tak Airport site in the West Kowloon, we would be talking in darkness.
But now we have a new executive director and things are moving. And I believe over the next 4 years, 4 to 5 years, things will move much more quickly, and it is time that we should also catch up on the software.
For things to move quickly and for your restructuring to succeed, you need to have the right people in place. and I don't know this for a fact, I only read, I've read about it in the news, that Siwa Leung could not get the people, his so-called A-list of people, to fill these jobs, and so he's going for the B-list. Or he couldn't get most or many of the people he wanted to get.
That's not true.
How true is that?
That's not true. There may be a couple who sort of declined, but on the whole, I think you will find a good lineup of political officers.
Who are these people?
I'm not here to talk about names.
I thought I'd ask you the question anyway. You know, I want to move on.
You know the answer straight away.
I know, but I thought I'd test you. But, you know, one of the things, and, you know, a couple of weeks back, I had two guests, one after the other. I had Miriam Lau of the Liberal Party, and I had Jeffrey Lam, who was Henry Tang,
yes.
and he was a Henry Tang supporter. Yeah. Also a legislative councillor. They both said on separate shows here that they were worried that Siwa Leung will be too much of a populist. Now, you know, Obama is a populist. He's trying to win the ordinary grassroots votes, right? But that has a different connotation in Hong Kong, which is a business-oriented society. And they were worried that if he becomes too much of a populist, it would change the very character, the nature of Hong Kong. And they were worried. Do they have any reason to be worried?
Well, CY really cares for the people. And maybe that is why they have the misconception that CY is populist. If you compare
is he a populist?
If you compare his manifesto with Henry's, you'll find that Henry actually gives away more. Even on the old age allowance, he was offering $3,000. We were more conservative, and we offered $2,000. But putting that aside, if you read his manifesto carefully, CY says his foremost priority is to develop the economy, both in size, in depth, and in diversity, create wealth for Hong Kong, then tackle the livelihood issues. I think he's very pragmatic. He's a pragmatic person, and he sees this wealth gap in the community, which is creating a lot of dissent and instability, and we have to address that issue.
How is he going to do that? He's going to go against the tycoons? This is what people think he's going to do, that he's going to go confront the tycoons.
Let's not take a confrontational approach. I think housing is really top on the list of public concerns, and therefore the new government will clearly tackle housing as a matter of priority. And the way he did it was to do it in a very scientific way, that is to initiate a long-term housing strategy study. The last one was published in 1997. We have not done any
He was here
strategy.
some time back to talk about minimum wage, which he was pushing. This is well before he declared himself as a candidate. He was here talking about minimum wage. Obviously, the wealth gap is an issue. But, you know, as I mentioned Michael Kadoorie, Siwa Leung had said, you know, the old philosophy of small government, big market. Maybe he needs a rethink on that to make society fairer. And these are the things that people get worried about. Maybe build more homes, and people say that'll upset the property market. You know, Michael Kadoorie's words about it was like a challenge. We're going to have to increase electricity rates by about 40% over the next 4 or 5 years. And Siwa Leung has got to think how much he's got to do for in the government and how much he's going to more or less do in the private sector. It was more or less a threat, hands off the private sector. That's how I read Michael Kadoorie's statement.
Well, I cannot read his mind, but from what he said, I can only surmise that he is giving a forewarning that fuel prices are going up, and fuel prices automatically pass on to the customers, and that's a reality. And therefore, he is asking the community to think whether we want clean air or whether are we willing to pay for clean air. I think that's his intention.
Does he have a point?
I think he has a point, and he will have to sit down with the government as to how to share the cost of this increasing fuel
We'll
price.
see Siwa Leung say, all right, you can't increase it by that much, as the current government did.
I cannot speak on behalf of CY on this one. I'm only heading his transition team, and I will disappear after 1st of July.
How do you think he's going to handle this? It's a very sensitive and tricky issue.
Well, there are many sensitive and tricky issues, but I think through communication and staying in touch with the people and staying in touch with the stakeholders, nothing is impossible. We could always resolve these problems.
Do you think we should pay more for clean air? Pay more electricity prices for cleaner fuel?
It's not just paying for clean air. You know, if we want sustainable development, if we want to protect the environment, we do have to pay more, even for reducing solid waste.
So you think it's a trend, we do have to pay more for power?
Well, I think we all have to fork out something in order to keep the environment clean. But of course we have to cover those who cannot afford to pay, but those who can, we may have to fork out more. Yes.
Ask them to pay more. So you're making a difference. Those who cannot pay, you're going to subsidize them.
Well, this has always been government's policy, isn't it?
So is CY actually going to interfere in the market a lot, or can you put the fears of these business community people?
Give me examples where they are worried that CY will interfere in the market. What is there in the manifesto that raises this fear?
Is what he says or what they perceive him to be.
But on the other hand, I have industrialists and businessmen coming to us and welcome more government support for them in having industrial policies, providing support for SMEs. Is that interference?
I don't know. I mean, there's something they have to.
Yes.
They just feel that he's going to be different from past leaders.
He may, of course, if he wants to make a difference, he must be different, okay? And people are looking for change. And if you cannot make change, how can we bring Hong Kong forward?
Obama promised change and it never happened in 5 years. But that's another issue. The last question here. A couple of days back, CY Leung said, you cannot say that just because people are not sleeping in the streets, we don't have a housing problem. That was a direct attack on Donald Tsang, because Donald Tsang said that we don't have people sleeping in the streets.
Did he? I'm not able to comment because I haven't heard either of them say any such thing.
Well, they did say that, but I've run out of time. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Good evening.